Leena is a photographer and installation artist based in Mumbai and Calcutta. She founded Missing Link Trust in 2015 to raise awareness to prevent sex trafficking in India. Missing works at the intersection of art and education to raise awareness. It created the Missing Game for a Cause, which went on to win several awards and has been downloaded over 1 million times. Missing also has reached over 130,000 people with its awareness programs in the past 6 years and launched its systematic safety school program, the Missing Awareness and Safety School program, this year. She has run successful crowdfunding campaigns to support and spread awareness on child trafficking, women empowerment, and rural digital literacy. Leena, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see a conduction of a Rotary meeting in the US. I'm a Rotarian myself. I have been a Rotarian since 2000. I was the president of my club in Kolkata in 2017. And what's really amazing is that we now have a Rotary Club to End Human Trafficking. When I first heard about this club, I said, how beautiful is that? A group of individuals all collecting with the common goal of ending human trafficking. And it's totally up to my heart. So I'm really, really happy to be here, for Malcolm for introducing us, for Jerry to take the conversation ahead. And finally, I'm here and I'm able to share with you all what I do so that we can all be a part, collectively do whatever we have to do, because trafficking especially is a space where nobody can really work alone. It has to be a collective effort. So the title for my talk here today is Why Wait for a Girl to Get Trafficked to Save Her? So in the initial days, I'm a photographer and an artist, and I love photographing the city and spaces. So I enter Kali Ghat, which is one of the oldest red light districts of Calcutta. And it's an experience which doesn't leave me. And for multiple years, I worked with all my friends who have NGOs in Calcutta, in Kidulpur, in Bow Bazaar, in Kali Ghat. And one common refrain was, a lot of girls didn't know that they could get trafficked. So my cry since then has been, why wait for a girl to get trafficked to save her? And with this whole intention, me as an artist, I created a public artwork, which is the Missing Girl Silhouette, which is like a kind of public art stencil, which goes onto walls, and it's been called a very powerful argument in public spaces. So going a little bit, I'm going to just set the context for India here with you all today, because that's the reason why I came into this space. So I'd like to share with you all some figures from India. In India, more than 200 children and 600 women go missing every day. And this is about, most of them are victims of sex trafficking, 80% of these women. And the average age of adolescents who get trafficked today is dropping. So it used to be 15, 13, 11, and now it's actually coming down closer to 9-year-olds. And 53% of children in India are victims of sex abuse before they reach the age of 10, according to the National Helpline. Like, these are some figures which I just thought I would set the context in the Indian space for you all. Now, going to the next slide, I'd like to talk to you about what are the common reasons why some of these children or girls get trafficked, which is across across the world. It's for sex exploitation. It could be forced marriages, child labor, definitely, just like you have the chocolate factories in India, the craft industry. Rajasthan, because of its huge tourist attraction, is actually one of the largest states for trafficking, for sex, for child slavery, especially in little factories where they use their little fingers, really help in creating of crafts. So all the crafts, which is most of the crafts from Rajasthan, actually use a lot of the child labor there. And of course, coerced participation in criminal activities, which happens, of course, to vulnerable adolescents. So these are some of the ways where a child or a woman can get trafficked in India. Just setting the context here. And now I would like to share with you what has been the changing scenario which I think we've experienced across the world. The changing scenario here right now is that globally, we can see that more adolescents are online, and a lot of them are on digital devices. And because of that, children are really susceptible to online predators. Child sexual abuse material coming out of India has stopped. It's risen by 95%. And child sex abuse material coming out from India has risen by 95% under COVID. And and I mean everything is there on the slide. I don't want to read out everything. We have a lot of children online. We have child sexual abuse material which has increased. We have children, even parents and caregivers not knowing how to address this new scenario. Parents are unaware of what's really happening online. And we've had many instances coming out of India which come into the news of cyberbullying, cyber exploitation. I mean, I'm forgetting the word exactly, but there's a very important issue which came out of the boys' locker room, which actually we had a bunch of teenagers talking about rape, about all kinds of sex abuse stuff, and these were coming from top urban schools of India. So what we have seen that trafficking has totally moved from rural. The earlier scenario used to be rural to urban, to poor to rich. It's now confined. It's actually moved from urban to urban. It's moved from brothels to totally. It could be a neighbor in an apartment building. It's all kinds of spaces and boundaries have dropped in this space, and it's becoming really important for caregivers, parents, and every individual and every citizen to become aware of how trafficking. I mean, we all know it's hidden from plain sight, but now more and more. And there's total lack of information amongst parents today. So we have been now doing these awareness sessions with teachers, parents, and more. The more we do it, the more we realize how it's really important that this becomes a very systematic, embedded learning for everybody across India, I would start by saying, but of course it's the world. Next slide, Gitanjali. So what does missing exactly do? So our work in anti-trafficking, we saw a lot of work, people in NGOs were working on prevention, prosecution, protection, rehabilitation. And there was this huge cry of end demand. End demand, of course, like most of you here, because you're already in the topic of trafficking, you know that trafficking is driven by demand. There is a demand, that's why there is a supply. And so the end demand can only happen when there is a larger dialogue happening with the public, and there is a larger awareness with the next generation who's shaping the demand in the coming years. And so missing has been concentratedly been working on prevention. And this, of course, we do through partnerships. And in prevention, we believe that why wait for a girl to get trafficked to save her? Because once a victim, it's always a victim. And it's even a lot of rehabilitation, counseling, but it's a very, very long curve for a victim to really step out of the shadows of what they have dealt with. There is, and of course, I'm sure you all also are aware that the UN's 4P strategy against trafficking is prevention, prosecution, protection, and partnership, and that's where we stand. I'm just sort of filling it in for you all. And our work also fits under the UN Sustainable Development Goals of gender equality, decent work and economic growth, peace and justice, strong institutions, that SDG 8, 16, and 5. I mean, this kind of just gives an idea that, the work which has to happen in prevention is in total sync with all the work which is happening in the development of society. And what we are talking about prevention, there have been two very important institutions whom we actually follow. DASRA is an organization which does sector-based research, and they have been mapping the landscape of multiple critical issues. They have a very strong paper which they took out on trafficking in India some years back called Zero Trafficking. And their research has definitely identified that prevention is crucial if you really want to change the shape of how trafficking is increasing. and ECPAT USA, of course, you all are aware. I mean, these are organizations who are reinstating again and again the role of prevention. And why do organizations like ours have to really prove it? Because most grants, most benefits, and most funds which come in the anti-trafficking space usually come into for rehabilitation. They come in for rescue. And there's a lot of number crunching which happens there. How many have you rescued? How many have you rehabilitated? While it's really difficult to prove how many have you prevented. And I think that should deter organizations like us from working in a prevention space in a very systematic way. Our work in prevention comes under two pillars of education and empowerment. In education, we are creating mass awareness through very innovative tools and school programs. And in the empowerment, we have a very deep grassroots program, which we have been now conducting since the last 4 years. Sundarbans in West Bengal. West Bengal itself is accounting for 40% of India's trafficking victims. And the Sundarbans district with 24 Pargana South is actually one of the key areas where a lot of victims get trafficked from. They have a history to it. There have been a route which has been directly from Sundarbans to Sonagachi. Sonagachi is one of the biggest red light districts in Calcutta, and it's there of Asia, and it's in Calcutta. And Sundarbans itself, the way it's geographically placed, it's very remote, it's very poor, and it sees a very high amount of trafficking. So these are the two areas where we work. I'm going to concentrate on what we do under Educate today. So to tell you a little bit about our education program. In Educate, we have at our core, of course, the school programs. Last 5 years now, we have reached about 135,000 students in separate programs, which we have conducted with different organizations, and we have managed to reach children. Beyond that, we also have been using, since the early days, like I'm an artist, I did my first crowdfunding for a public art project and for a smartphone app. And I developed this game for change. It's called Missing. It's a free game, and it's now been downloaded over 1 million times across 70 plus countries. And we've had tremendous response to it. We've had reviewers tell us how saving Shampa, who's the main protagonist in the game, and how it makes them feel as if they themselves have actually been part of saving a friend whom he had lost last year. And someone else says this is one of the most important games to have been made. So this is a free game. We have now recently translated into 12 Indian languages, because we really want to reach Indians in their languages, as well as we actually have it ready and translated in 8 international languages, which I haven't yet really put out. I think German did go out for a short time, but we are looking at putting it out in more languages because it's a powerful tool. It's got questions embedded in it. It gives us an insight into behavioral patterns, choices a player might make in this space, and the level of knowledge of this issue. So all these are insights which we receive. Our other innovative tools which we have in our Educate space are, we have an interactive digital comic called Web of Deceit, which we made with the International Justice Mission, Kolkata. This has primarily been made with the focus of educating junior level police and legal counsels in civil courts and smaller police stations, because these are the people who actually come in contact with a survivor or the issue firsthand before it even reaches higher authorities. We have an AR app, an augmented reality app, which we are in the process of developing with organizations. We have murals, which we create in cities, which have chatbots over them, because it's not just about having a beautiful picture on the wall. Our murals actually, the chatbot is very engaging, immersive. The chatbot in Calcutta talks about patriarchy. The ones in Delhi talk about street violence and abuse and rape. And it actually makes the public realize everywhere, at every point, the role they play in these rising figures of trafficking and abuse and exploitation. because if you are passive and if you don't really do something about it, the next person won't. I mean, the change starts with us, right? Like we all know. But it's kind of embeds that whole dialogue in all our innovative tools which we have been making. We have a game 2 coming out soon, and that's going to be about another 3 months later. But that's our USP. We have the capacity to create these really innovative, immersive engagements, because today I think if we are talking prevention and if we are talking to the next generation, our language has to be very, very immersive and narrative based. It cannot be preachy, and it cannot be a teacher talking to them. Next slide, please. So talking about the school program, that's the core of what we've been working under COVID. We are working on the main premise that awareness leads to prevention. It's any knowledge which gives you a capability to make informed decisions of every choice you make. Next is empowering adolescents with this education, because a lot of our young ones are the ones who are actually vulnerable. And adolescents, because of their age and because of their mental frame, they are vulnerable all across every strata of society. Adolescents share their learning. In this program, we teach to teach. The program, actually, the next slide would be very interesting. Gitanjali, can we just show them a little bit about the 5 modules we have in the program? Yeah. So the program has got 5 modules. One is Awareness 101. It mainly talks about sex abuse and exploitation in its totality. It talks about trafficking too, but it's giving them a general knowledge about the space. Cyber safety is a deeper intervention on everything cyber. Cyber exploitation, texting, abuse, blackmail, as well as different narratives and different stories from the space based on real life incidences about how children have got trafficked right on their WhatsApp messages, how they have got trafficked through their profiles on Facebook, and it's all narrative based. Then, of course, we have adolescent education. In India, it's very difficult. We can't really sell this to schools or government by saying sex education. I have to say adolescent education, but still it's a very key module. And we have 2 activity-based modules. That is the create your own board game, because we make them do an activity at which they kind of immerse. They are the ones who make the rules, the regulations, the risks, the safeties. They spell them out, and then they create their board game, which gives them a total ownership of what they've learned. And then, of course, launch your own awareness campaign, which I think every child should know, because social media is at their fingertips. They're using it all the time. We kind of teach them how to launch an awareness campaign online and the different elements of it. So the whole program, like going back to 2 slides up, Gitanjali, when we were talking about the USP of the program, the adolescents teach to teach. That's the way it goes. And we teach to teach is actually the most powerful way to really give them ownership of the issue and make them reinstate what they've learned, and just makes it more powerful. And of course, it also gives them a very powerful vocabulary, because a lot of adolescents don't know what they are feeling. And though they might know and they want to express it, but this program gives them all that. And so that they can actually become spokesperson for every missing child or every missing girl or in the world. So the whole programs, in fact, even our tools, our resources are mapped to the theory of change. So we have a very clear, distinct mapping about what is the problem which we are setting out to solve and what will they solve by the end of it. So if we are saying we are trying to solve the lack of education and the rising figures of exploitation and trafficking, and how their role, and even for them to understand their role they play in the rising figures as demand makers. So the whole program chalks that out. There are monitoring evaluations at every step, and which give clear indications of and badges of achievements. And at the end, the child comes out saying, I know this, I know this, I know this. And it's a very, they're reaffirmations of every learning which they receive. So these are the very innovative tools of our program, and they all are embedded within the Missing Awareness and Safety School program. We have incorporated all of them in the school program. The program has been designed so that in India, especially because a lot of our children don't have access to laptops and computers, personal laptops and computers. So if we are talking about really reaching the last child, the program has the capacity to be delivered through a web app, through a WhatsApp program. WhatsApp is or any other messenger program, because a lot of communities and non-government organizations who work with communities, they are able to conduct this in groups, because they have the community who goes out into the community and they are able to reach more children. And of course, we have the offline version, which can be done through audiovisual presentations, projectors, speakers, and they can be done in classrooms and community organization halls. So the whole program, and the beauty of the program is that because the whole program is audiovisual and it's translated, localized, we are sure that the essence of the program is not lost, and it's going directly from the experts to the child. So there is nothing which is really lost in conversation, though we do encourage the trainers to add any local stories or narratives which they might have, which is a part of their area or a particular issue which they face, so that they can localize it with little narratives from their space. How is access to schools? I'll answer all those questions. So we had a recent Freedom Collaborative actually introduced us to a group full of people who were working on trafficking, ending trafficking. And we have been introduced to organizations in Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Indonesia, and Cambodia. And we are looking at ways of how we can make this possible, because these are, of course, key areas where this work would really benefit also beyond every other space. So these are, of course, our key 3 takeaways about raising awareness, connecting to organizations who are working with organizations or communities or schools where this could be rolled out, and help with implementing the program. So there is a minimum beneficiary implementation cost, which we have tried to really put down to the last decimal. And that's what this would really streamline it and make it really happen. So we have lots of questions there. We should just take them.
Yeah, Leena, do you just want to go through, or should I kind of be your...
I can just see the last question is actually, how is access into schools, and do you involve elementary? Yes, so we generally go to schools, basically higher secondary schools. We are looking at doing junior and higher, because we believe that sex education or adolescent education actually has to start early. It can't start at 13 or 14. So we have a junior model, which we have developed for 11 to 12-year-olds also. So there is a junior and a high school module. So this could be children from 11 to 18-year-olds or even 20.
So Leena, how does that tie then with your opening comments about how children are being pulled into this younger and younger? It seems like in some ways that message, if you engage those kids at that age, it's too late in some ways. So how do you reconcile that?
So we do have our parents program, which we have been developing now. So that's something which can be done, which we would like to execute for young parents that could be much younger. And all our online awareness modules, which we have an online campaigns. We do have even the augmented reality app, which we are going to be developing, will be addressing issues which can be educating and raise awareness across the cross-section of society.
We are at time. So thank you, Leena, so much for your energy, for your passion, for your thoughtfulness in the programs that you're developing. And as clearly you're doing something right, because as you say, you build something and things happen. So thank you so much.